Hey everybody out there, it's been a while since I did a video, and yeah, as you can tell, I bought a new webcam, and it's not working too well, so you're gonna have to deal with that. Unfortunately, I ain't got the money. I'm a broke ass. But anyways, yeah, it's been like a few months since I've last done a video, and I don't know, I've just been kind of looking at the way things are going right now. It's not going too well, obviously. The war in Ukraine is heating up, and it's been going pretty crazy. I think Bakhmut at this point is about to be lost. It's pretty much lost in name only at this point. And a lot of people are like, oh, well, that's, pretty much to the east, and it's not strategic or whatnot, but it's kind of strategic because there's a giant river that they're trying, that pretty much goes right up to Kyiv, and, that whole eastern area is what they're trying to fill in, and once they got that side, then it's not looking good for Kiev at all. I mean, they're starting to get a couple of strikes that are starting to hit in that area. They were showing all these, stuff of people, Kiev just partying, though, just, all these, just having a great time at the club. It's like there's a war going on not too far away, but I guess it's, when you're in that kind of a situation. It makes sense. But, no, I've been watching more just the Canadian content more than I've been watching American stuff, which is a nice change. I highly recommend The Raging Dissident. His channel's awesome. And then on Derek Rants, I've been watching that too. And then they also had another thing with some other channels for their streams or whatnot. I think it's kind of cool. It's been getting me to subscribe more. But, YouTube's kind of shit anyways, because then they just needed Crowder. Of course, they're going to do it the one time where he's, kind of getting a little attack from everybody in the conservative circles and stuff. And, it's interesting how it is. I mean, the conservatives do eat their own to a certain degree, but, it's not nearly as bad as what the liberals, extent, are for eating their own. I mean, a lot of conservatives, you can disagree, and then it's just a certain amount of variation in the conservative sphere of people who either, have different, stances that, you agree with or you don't agree with or whatnot. So, I definitely stand more with the right-leaning channels because they're the ones that at least give a shit about objective truth. It's just, every time I try to, look into left sources, it's just straight up a complete fabrication or lie or obfuscation. I mean, at least I understand where people who are more libertarian and conservative are, standing for that matter. Because, I mean, well, for me, it's hard. I'm not, religious. I'm agnostic. In fact, I always grew up in, a really left-leaning kind of, well, I mean, they said we were religious, but we never really partook in it. It's kind of funny because, folks would do that thing where they'd sponsor a kid, and I think I've mentioned this before on my channel a couple times, where they'd sponsor a kid and then not pay after a while. Not purposely trying to do it that way, but they were just because they like to gamble and stuff, and we didn't really have a whole lot of money. We were kind of poor, grew up poor, so sorry, Pepe. I would joke around and probably created a lot of ISIS fighters just because of my folks. So, yeah, anyways, I know this is probably distracting as hell seeing the webcam glitching out like that, but this is apparently a new webcam I just bought. Oh, well, it's how it is. Everything's falling apart. You're trying to get customer service. It's in some freaking language you can't freaking understand anyways. Just how it is. But, yeah, let's just kind of see how things are going to go. I mean, is it going to be economic collapse? Is it going to be World War III? Is it going to be, the Civil War, the race war stuff that's going on here? Because it's crazy. I live in Oxford. And I've been saying for a while, actually I was kind of surprised that we're talking about the Oxford scandal on some of the other independent, the right-wing podcasts or whatnot. They're patriots, because fuck yeah, man, those dudes actually went to war and put their life on the line. So I mean, I respect them 100%, more than I respect any pussy-ass politician. I mean, that's pretty much what's happened is, I don't even care what people do behind closed doors, but it's so out in the open and in your face now. I had to go out and protest some of the stuff and you know, say this is wrong, because it's getting to the point where it's you know, they're forcing it on kids and pushing it on people, and you know, pushing it as a UN agenda, and of course all that shit gets funded, and anything that's like even remotely, you know, pro-family or whatnot. And you can't have your own culture here in Canada, apparently, even though we're like the nicest fucking people. Oh yeah, we're nice, but you know, when it came to fighting wars and shit like that, like we fucking put it on the line and kicked some ass when we could, you know. And I mean, my ass is crippled. It's not really a whole lot I can do. I've probably got maybe like a little bit of adrenaline, a couple. But, you know, I've been trying to do some more exercise and stuff like that, because I do agree it's you know, it's getting to the point where we're gonna have to, you know, start looking into alternative sources of. I'm gonna start. Grandparents are moving in a bit, so I'll be learning how to do some gardening and stuff there. So that's some skills I can definitely pick up on. I've been doing like the weeding part. I'm pretty good. I've been ripping stuff out with my hands and shit like that. It's been fun. But you know, I mean, still got a lot to learn, and I definitely think that the answer to this is simple, but it's complex. I mean, it's like. It takes a lot of work for people to do, and that's what I think is funny. They're always trying to, like, you know, kick your ass into gear and be like, oh, you need to get stronger and stuff like that. And like, I've always been a strong, badass motherfucker in my life, my whole life for the most part. I just, like, it gets me into trouble. So, you know, you gotta know when to pick your battles. That's pretty much, that's the whole point of like, life, really. My back is fucked anyway, so it's not like I've done enough battles to, like, change the course of friggin' Canadian history or any bullshit like that, or, you know, protect, you know, like, society or civilization. I mean, it's gone. Like, we let, like, fucking morons rule everything, pretty much. And then it's easy to say, oh, people are stupid because they don't do what I want them to do, kind of thing, you know, mentality. But no, we've literally gone away from objective reality whatsoever to some just fucking communist, like, weird, like, illusionary thing where all this stuff is like, all the problems that are presented to you are bullshit, and all the actual real problems are covered up and obfuscated and keeping out. You know, like, I don't have to explain it to anybody who listens to my channel how fucked up it is right now. But, you know, it's only getting more and more crazy, you know. Just for having an objective viewpoint, or even wanting to go and listen to the other side, it's going to be criminalized soon. You know, they did everything they could with this whole COVID bullshit, and how they fucking censored any like, anybody from the other side, no matter how reputable they were. You know, and it's just getting to the point now where it's going to be, if you start speaking too much truth now, and that's what it is, it's selective enforcement. There's tons of people out there that have gotten popular enough and have enough people listening to them, and the government knows what's going on. They see it, you know, as any kind of, you know, sensible protest to what they're trying to push towards us. And I've been watching Alex Jones for years. I mean, there was a time I used to watch Alex Jones, and it was all, like, as a joke, but, like, the dude's been right about so many damn things, and they've just gone that way. It's been like a self-fulfilling prophecy, and I find myself more and more defending Christians and people who, you know, are socially more conservative than I am. And I think, you know, it's just the way it is now. It's I mean, a lot of people wouldn't even think 10 years ago or 20 years ago if you were to say that Trump was probably, I mean, and then, you know, got the whole thing about that, who's behind him and whatnot. But I mean, they definitely hate him more than anyone else. And at least if they're not somebody that they could easily be his puppet. I mean, he's a man who definitely goes out and says his own things. You know, he's you know, but there is some weird, troubling things too. Like, he is really kind of like the whole thing with Israel and stuff like that. It's kind of sketchy. I mean, I got nothing against, like, other countries, but I just think it's kind of weird how, like, you know, they stole nuclear secrets. Like, they've done a lot of shady things with the Mossad and the whole Epstein thing. There's been a lot of spy stuff where people get murdered over the years, and just a lot of just shady shit that's not out in the open. For me, you know, I'm more of a person where the best policy that you could ever have on a global stage, or even for your own country, is actual transparency. You know, like, not to the point where you're telling them every fucking thing that you're doing to, like, you know, like in a wartime situation or whatnot, but pretty much be, like, actually transparent. Like, you know, actually have people that know what the fuck they're doing in power, you know, like that's when you know that it's like warranted authority and unwarranted authority. You know, like I'm not gonna go out to a fucking farm, like I said, you know, I think I might have said a couple times and used this analogy, and tell a farmer how to fucking do his job. You know, he's been doing it for generations, and he probably knows more better ways of doing things, and you know, than I'll ever fucking do, you know, in my life. And what we have with our politicians and pretty much our leaders of the world, and even people who are unelected global billionaires. I mean, Bilderberg's going on right now as we speak, and you know, you don't hear the news talking about that or whatnot. You know, like it's kind of funny how, you know, Davos look at all the, you know, like, and then they'll be like, oh yes, you need to use less, and then they'll show you like this giant super fucking hurricane type like transport plane or whatnot, and they got like 3 fucking private jets all like stored inside. You gotta listen to those people, right? You know, it's no hypocrisy here whatsoever. And yeah, no, it's just one of those things. And then they had the whole Bud Light boycott's been actually kind of interesting to see, because, you know, I didn't think people would actually be able to do that. And like it's kind of funny though how it's like, I mean, I understand Bud Light screwing up and people are like, nope, I'm not drinking the tranny fluid anymore. Which, I mean, I've been watching Salty and all these other people too. They're hilarious. I love it. So, I mean, like, what? There's tons of people out there doing this, the same thing I'm doing right now. I mean, I just kind of feel like I need to do it because there's so few and far between of people that'll actually, you know, call society, the downfall of society for what it is. There's a lot of parallels to other parts, and that's what pisses me off about the whole people not knowing their history. I mean, there's plenty of parallels to other civilizations when they start to fall down that we have with the debasement of the money, the, you know, bringing in people that don't share similar values to such an extent where it becomes a huge fucking clusterfuck and nobody wants to get along with each other, and it becomes racial division and tribalism, and you know, everybody starts taking advantage of each other whenever they can. This is a breakdown of society and the social contract and just cohesion in general. You know, there's been tons of times where people have been overextending themselves with wars, for example. You know, just the not being able to have like the whole kind of like ancient kind of GDP kind of thing to like modern GDP, you know, how productive your society is and like what the resources they're producing, and how that keeps them going when it comes to either national use or foreign trade. Like, there's definitely been more of a switch between the whole, I see it as more of a nationalism versus globalism thing. But when you say that to people, then all of a sudden the whole nationalistic tendencies get all, like, you know, put up with the whole, you're right wing and stuff like that. But it doesn't always have to be stuff like that. I mean, it's pretty much just making sure that you're protecting your borders and you're not bringing in too many people to the fact that you have the demand in your workforce. If you need a few extra people in the demand for the workforce, then there's nothing wrong with bringing in some people. The problem is that it's signed on to this Cloward and Piven UN kind of agenda of destabilizing, like, everything that's happening right now has been planned, pretty much orchestrated for tons of years, decades, and generations, pretty much. They've been waiting for this shit to happen. And, I mean, after going off the gold standard here in Canada when they amended the Bank of Canada Act in 1974, that kind of fucked us over. I mean, Nixon going off the gold standard, just pretty much the whole switch in the 70s and the 80s to the whole, you know, let's just go and do the world order kind of thing. And, you know, they used the whole fear against us versus communism as the big thing. But communism's won. I mean, it's in our schools. It's being taught pretty much everything in every part of society. And then China is pushing that shit. And they're smart enough to know that they don't push that shit in their own fucking country. Like, they don't give a fuck if you're gay. It's like, well, they do, but they just don't want you to be. Like, they don't like the feminization, all that shit. All that stuff about, you know, like, you don't see the Chinese military wearing red heels. They don't give a fuck. They're gonna kill us. They're using all that soft shit as propaganda, as a psyop to get us into fucking believing in all this shit that doesn't fucking matter, while they completely infiltrate and take us over either economically and obviously politically now, because we've even had CSIS people and, like, people from the government, whistleblowers, that have came out and said, we're practically committing treason. The Chinese government is running Canada. And so they're smart. They know how to use it through like, oh, is it because I'm a brown Indian? Oh, is it because I'm a woman? Oh, is it because I'm a fucking pedophile prime minister? You know, like, they're so fucking protected. It's not even funny. And the sad thing is that there's so many people that don't even see it. You know, that just think, oh, we're just because we're Canada, we're better than everyone else. We're better than those people in the States, even though our government is pushing like Orwellian fucking censorship laws that they're trying to shove through to tell us what we can fucking think, what we can see on fucking line and shit like that. Fuck them. Fuck the government. A government with a blackface prime minister does not get to fucking tell me what the fuck I can think or what I can do online. Alright? That ship has fucking sailed. And anybody who believes that any kind of politician, and just in general, you know, you always have to, like, take what they say with a grain of salt, because, you know, obviously, some of the stuff they say all the time, I think, can be truthful, and most of the time, as we've seen with the last, like, few years, especially, most of the politicians are full of shit, and they're fucking tyrannical dickbags, and if this was 100 fucking years ago, you know what the fuck would happen. But no, we've been completely pussified and calmed down and put into a lulled state of, you know, well, we don't give a fuck. It seems that apathy and nihilism is the one true god of the modern age for a lot of people. And, I mean, there was a point where I kind of, like, was sort of agreed with that shit way back in the day when I was younger. You know, I didn't give a fuck. But I'm starting to see that there's an order to things, and when you fuck up that order and you don't replace it with anything, I mean, you know, Nietzsche had the same fear, pretty much, and I mean, like, look what happened with his whole fucking philosophy got turned into fucking Nazi ideology by his fucking sister. I mean, he shouldn't have been, you know, screwing a bunch of prostitutes with fucking all kinds of diseases and shit like that. You're gonna go fucking crazy, you know, your brain's gonna go fucking on you, and you're isolated and shit like that for, you know. So I kind of feel for where he was coming from there, but, you know, consequences have action in this world, and a lot of people who do the leftist vice behaviors and shit like that, indulge in that shit, end up fucking completely regretting it, or in just a bad fucking, you know, you don't find meaningful relationship. I mean, take like the Parsons fucking, like, was it Jack Parson? Like, I think fuck L. Ron Hubbard stole his fucking wife. Well, I mean, if you're gonna be in a fucking weird-ass cult of, like, do what thou wilt and all this fucking crowdly bullshit, then you're not gonna find someone that's a good-hearted woman that loves you for you and actually fucking will stick with you to the fucking test of time. No, because they're all fucking about themselves. It's all about, you know, and there is a certain value to, you know, but then that's the thing, is they manipulate that feeling that you want to have for, like, the individual to help out and make a better society and use the collective good, you know? But then they fucking take that shit. That's what I fucking hate about the left, is that they'll ruin it. They'll fucking pervert that shit so that the collectivization is the only thing that fucking matters. The centralization of power is the only thing that matters. And they try to say that, and I mean, you see that also for people who do have, like, the real kind of hardcore right-wing death squads and shit back in the day and shit like that on the right. But, I mean, for the left, it's more, it's more socially accepted and ingrained in society now. It's completely okay to be a communist and start talking about, you know, like, all these late show celebrities. I'm glad the fucking writer strike's on, because they were completely stupid to begin with. And so, unless people want to, like, kill their last few remaining brain cells and watch, like, you know, them talk about how fucking bad every, you know, like try to do, like, their own little fucking webcam shows like what I'm doing right here, but they get paid millions of dollars to do it, you know. It's funny, though. But, I mean, you get all these Marxists that have ruined culture in just, I mean, so many different aspects. I mean, let's be honest. I mean, like, let's think of the ones that off the top of our heads. I mean, like, pretty much politics, obviously. The World Health, like, the World Health Organization and fucking the UN pretty much runs that shit. You know, you got, like, mass immigration that's happening, which is going at such a, you know, a huge replacement level, you can't even deny it at this point. Like, the state's border is just a fucking laughingstock. And that's what pisses me off about people. They say that Trump is so racist and shit like that. How fucking racist is it if Biden is actually bringing over like 10 to 20 to 100 times more fucking people, and they're working actively with the fucking cartels that rape and do whatever the fuck they want to these people that are coming out there. You know, if they don't pay, they just fucking leave them in a fucking trailer, like truck trailer or whatnot, and they fucking die that way. You know, if they don't pay up or whatnot, or if they just in a fucking crazy mood at that day and just say fuck it. You know, somebody gave them the weird stink eye. We're like, well, the whole fucking trailer is gonna die. And that shit happens. It's fucking crazy. Nobody gets held accountable, but it's completely okay because society is always, you know. I mean, let's take the. What we got here that I said so far, alright, like the political aspect of things, I mean, education, pretty much, let's be honest, they're more focused about what's between your kids' fucking legs now than they are about actually teaching your fucking kids where money comes from. Like, how about nobody knows where money comes from, or how it's printed in this fucking country? Shouldn't that be like a basic bit, or like how to manage your finances properly? You know, I mean, that would probably help a lot of families out, or people just in general. You know, okay, they can keep fucking phoning. It's probably a call center in India anyways. And that's fucking a problem, you know. Always getting those stupid fucking phone calls from people. Fucking, would you like to clean your ducks, sir? No, I do not need to wet my ducks. Whack, 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 whack. I like to clean the ducks. No, it's gotten ridiculous. And then you got the pretty much education. Like, I mean, the main educational institutions are like teaching teachers how to be Marxists more than they are actually teaching teachers how to teach kids. You know, it's like a bunch of, you know, degrees that you get that are stupid. I mean, like, they got, what, you can be into school for like 4 or 5 years to be a teacher, when all you're really doing is just going through like textbook material anyways when you do, and then, you know, you're striking for a good portion. You know, like if they were going to be true to the form of what it's like to actually be a teacher, like 1/4 of those years would just be like how to be a fucking cultural Marxist and strike and demand more money, although we say it's all for the children. We care so much about those poor little children. That's why we need more money. More money. We need that nice golden parachute. Yes, yes. I mean, it's for the children. Won't somebody think of the children? Oh my god, it's crazy. But yeah, so I mean, look at how pretty much I think what they say, 80% of teachers are left-leaning or liberal. Like, there's only like, what, 10 to like 15%, if you're lucky, of like actually conservative college professors. And we're supposed to act like that's not having an effect on like, on the youth whatsoever. You know, the people that are telling them, but, you know, it's kind of interesting, too, because Trump's like, well, you know, what we need is more teachers with guns. And I've seen a lot of TikTok videos and lives of TikTok. I don't know if that's a good idea. Because, I mean, last thing you want is fucking your mentally deranged teacher to fucking pull out a fucking gun. Just mispronounced my fucking pronouns again. It's they, Appleton. But I don't give a shit if you know. Is that what they call them? Is that what you have to? What's the Mr. and Mrs. equivalent for trannies? Are we supposed to just call them Zay, Zer, Zim, whatever the fuck they decide at the moment in time? I guess it's ridiculous. Oh, we live in such a clown world. And you're supposed to have this mental telepathy, right? You're supposed to know when you see some person out there with a really bad, you know, they must have spilt their fucking Kool-Aid when they were trying to, because they, you know, leftists can't even make fucking Kool-Aid properly. Okay, that's a bad joke. But still, when they're the ones that are trying to tell you the business and how you're supposed to think, like, when you see that, like, how the fuck are you supposed to know? It's just not fair. You know, at least the you know, if a chick is dressed real hot You know, she's got, you know, like, that, you just go over and be like, you know, you treat her in the feminine form, you know. There's a dude over there, you'd be like, oh, hey, man, how's it going, Bill? You know, you know he's dressed up like a dude. It just makes things more fucking easier, all right? We're stupid people as a society. We need things to operate at least on a somewhat basic fucking level so we know that people aren't fucking with us at the very least. You know? And that's all we're getting is people fucking with us nowadays. It's so hard to tell. Like, that's the reason why, they're not, you know, on the left or the right. You know, it's like we're watching the same fucking... Well, we're watching a movie with the same title, but it's two separate fucking movies. Like, there ain't no... Like, you try to talk to somebody else that's in their own little fucking world and shit like that, you know, it's like, oh, hey, how's it going? You see that movie? They'll be like, oh, yeah, and then they'll be like, oh, man, you see that part with the fucking weird alien that popped out of the chick's chest and fucking started eating everybody? What the fuck are you talking about? I was watching a thriller. You know? Like, it's pretty much that at this point. It's really hard to find people in that middle ground. And when you do actually start talking about how fucking shit is crazy on both fucking, a lot of crazy shit that's going on out there, you know, you know, you end up being, you know, I mean, take Corbett Report, for example. I mean, if you wanted to be, like, this is my argument. If you wanted to, like, really go on, like, who's been the most accurate, you know, to go on, like, the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. If you were to really think about it, Corbett Report has been pretty much spot on. But are they as nearly as popular as a lot of other... No, because they, you know, they say, okay, both, they call out the bullshit from both the left and the right and the center, you know, pretty much see things from, you know, just kind of authoritarian versus freedom, kind of like personal, you know, peer-to-peer economies that you can be creating as opposed to the centralization of both the left and the right, you know, and the taxation and theft and stuff like that. So, if you look at some people out there, they've been kind of like more right than others, because, I mean, Corbett Report did call out and they're right too, the whole, you know, Trump pushing the whole warp speed thing. But then it becomes one of those things where if you're on the left or the right, or if you're in the center, for example, you see people that were right, and they're like, okay, well, at the same time too, what are we supposed to do? Throw Trump completely under the bus when he obviously is one of the fucking best things that the Americans have right now going for them? I mean, yeah, it's still a corrupt system, but when you compare it to, like, everywhere else on the world, you know, they, like, if you look at the average leftist, you know, they see Trump as, like, oh, this guy who's just everything that's wrong with politics, and everybody else was doing things so morally right and professional beforehand. And then you see people that actually, like, look at both sides of the argument, and for me, I end up trying to be, I think we need a fucking Trump. We don't have anybody like a Trump really here in Canada. You know, the closest we have is Maxime Bernier. I mean, I used to, I mean, Tim Moen for the Libertarian, but then he left that whole fucking thing, and I mean, I was into the whole Libertarian thing before started doing the PPC stuff, before they became a party, and the problem with the fucking Libertarians is that there's a lot of fucking communists in there. A lot of people that are pretty much very, very leftist, and they're saying, oh yeah, we have the open borders, and the, you know, like pretty much like all the leftist policies and stuff like that, but you can leave at any time you want. That's their argument. That's pretty much, if you sum up all the left fucking libertarians, they're like, oh yeah, well, we want to kind of have more, you know, it's like, oh, the government can't do it, but it's my private company. And that was like their argument for the while, but then all of a sudden, a rich person like Elon Musk, Musk buys Twitter, and then all of a sudden, even the left libertarians are like, oh, bro, you know, why are you doing all this stuff? You shouldn't have this much power. Give it back to the people, bro. You know, and it's like, they didn't have a fucking problem when it was, you know, CIA Twitter before. You know, it's funny. It's, you know, guys like Trump have seen the writing on the wall for a long time. And, I mean, at the same time, too, you can always... You know, it's legitimate to criticize, you know, the people that are out there, that are out in their arena. But, I mean, you got to give them the credit for having the balls to go out there, because you have to deal with a lot of pressure. You know, your life is practically, as a public figure, is, you know, you're going to be remembered or revered in like a bad kind of way, you know, based on the decisions and the things that you do in life. And there's plenty of people that are the most altruistic people that have the best intentions, and then it all goes to shit once they get into that pressure cooker, you know, because, you know, that's where you're having to defend your ideas and stuff like that. I mean, I'm probably, you know, more like what I consider myself, I guess, on the political spectrum, center-right leaning conservative, but still libertarian, because I'm not religious, you know, like I don't have the whole, you know, I don't care what gods you worship, pretty much, but, you know, at the same time, there are other countries, I do I understand that there are certain cultures that are much more better than the others, you know, I mean, you know, I definitely, like, for example, I have a, you know, gay or LGBT brother, and it sucks that, you know, is kind of, doesn't see things my way, but when I was his age, you know, college age kind of thing, university age, I was more like a pissed off, I hated everybody, had a chip on my shoulder, kind of, you know, communist, wanted to eat the rich and shit like that, and fucking hated authority just in general. But, you know, you get older and you actually realize that there are certain things that you have to give an appreciation for that have an ability to sustain themselves and over the long period of time. And we don't want to throw that shit and scatter it to the wind. I mean, like, nobody's going to deny the fact that, like, nowadays the generations are a little bit more accepting to it. Like, they don't give a shit if you're gay or not. You know, they could care less about that stuff for the most part. The problem is when it starts getting pushed into, like, every aspect of their culture and ruins all the good stuff. Like, when it gets to the point where, you know, you have, like, a whole month dedicated to, you know, dudes sucking dick, as opposed to one day for fucking veterans that all, you know, generations that fought in multiple wars to keep the state fucking where it is and keep us free. You know, I mean, it's funny how the society does switch that way. And so there's definitely a pushback. Like, the ball is starting to spread, you know, back a little bit. But, I mean, compared to, let's say, 60 to 100 years ago, I mean, we're much more accepting of that shit. We don't give a fuck about that stuff. And to a certain extent, we have to, you know, look at things and see what's the problem with society now where we're having lower birth replacement rates and stuff like that, you know, from the native populations, and they're getting to the point where they're actually having to bring people in. I mean, that's a problem because obviously you don't want to supplant the native population. You want to bring in people so that they feel that they're actually accepted into a culture, because if they don't feel that they're accepted into a culture, they're going to balkanize and tribalize anyways, and then it's going to defeat the whole fucking purpose of bringing in people to fill in the gaps in your workforce. But that's the whole thing, is that issue has been turned into a left or right issue. Like, I mean, the PPC party is called far right because they just want to have reasonable immigration. You know, they just don't want to bring too many fucking people into the point where when we don't, and it's funny because the left should be seeing this and being like, okay, we're already, I mean, from a leftist perspective, right? You know, like, everything needs more money. We need more money. Oh my God, we need more money. We need to keep printing more money. So if we get bringing in more people, we're printing more money. And they don't understand that that's a bad fucking thing. You know? We can't keep printing more fucking money and bringing people in that we can't fucking afford. But, I mean, there's the same people that'll be like, we need more money for housing. And it's like, okay, you make more money for housing. Okay, that makes sense in the temporary form. But it's not going to help things in the long run. And if you're bringing in, when you don't have people for the housing to begin with, and you're like a huge shortage of doctors and stuff like that, and then you just keep bringing more people in, expecting more shit, and then wondering why stuff breaks down, then you are a fucking idiot. There's no other way to explain that. People don't realize, and at the same time too, well, there's the argument of why do we even have a fucking CRTC or fucking IRS or any of the fucking Canada, you know, any tax agency that's taxing what we make, when the government can just keep fucking printing money anyways without any fucking, you know, stipulations or any repercussions, or, you know, why are they going after us? Because they have to go after us. They don't want us to get too wealthy. They don't want us to be able to be take our you know, what we make and actually make more of an effect and an impact you know, they have to have all these regulations on there, so only certain people are allowed into the club. You have to taper it off into that fucking pyramids, you know, kind of like model one way or another, and a lot of that is, you know, pretty much screwing a lot of people out of, and putting in heavy regulations and stuff like that. And at the same time, too, I'm also down for, like, I mean, sometimes you need regulations for certain things, because there's the argument, okay, well, if we just localized everything, and let's say Oxford County, you know, or like other places have stuff where they have to pay for their own thing, pretty much, you know, their own transportation, their own health services, stuff like that. And I mean, it's already at the point now where we spend enough money, I think like half of the fucking Ontario provincial budget or more, on healthcare as it is, because we don't have like to worry about military or any of that other shit. But if we were to do localized areas, it's not like a small town would be able to pay for like an airport and also maintain the fees of like maintaining the airline safety standard of that area, or like national standards or international standards, that means, without spending a lot of shit ton of money and stuff like that. So there's definitely somewhat of an argument for certain things that have a high degree of specialization and standard, and like well, not standard, well, I guess some standardization, yeah, because like well, I'm going on a bit of a rant here, but what I'm trying to say is that, you know, there's gonna be a need to have some sort of like a federal kind of thing that does unfortunately take taxes and put it towards certain things, but I mean at the same time too, you have to make sure that they are doing it specifically for that reason. And I think that if we were to go back to even just like what we were spending in the 90s, you know, like if we were to just go back to that kind of model, I think a lot of people would realize that in the 90s it wasn't so bad. You know, we still gave a shit about not bringing in too many fucking people, even though we were still bringing in a lot of people. I mean, my grandparents came over here from England, and when they were over here in the 70s, when they got sworn in, it was just pretty much just a whole bunch of foreign people and stuff like that. You know, they've been doing it for a while. And I think that's one of the reasons why, I mean, I could be paranoid, but I do believe that they don't need to really rig the elections here in Canada, because they practically have this kind of like weird thing where they send in like a lot of people into certain areas, like Brampton, for example, or Chilliwack out in BC. Oh, no, not Chilliwack, but Abbotsford out in BC, because I used to live in Chilliwack. And like you see that there's like where they're bringing in groups of people, and you know, they're using those different ethnic groups as a political pawns, and like they're doing it that way as like a Great Game kind of version of Canadian British you know, like intelligence, pretty much what they're doing. So it's unfortunately kind of turned into that, and so, you know, you lose a lot of what made Canada great, you know, when you're bringing in way too many people and replacing people, and just not having the resources to accommodate, even at a basic central kind of level, whether or not you're left or right. There's no fiscal responsibility whatsoever. And so that's what swayed me more to the right, is that, you know, like any kind of party that believes in fiscal conservatism or non-interventionism is something I fucking heavily gravitate to, because unless we're actually like we don't need to fight fucking UN wars. Like that's the whole thing. We should be pulling the fuck out of NATO. We should be pulling the fuck out of the UN, the World Health Organization here in Canada, and doing our own fucking thing, because they obviously, like, we spent more money than World War II and World War I combined, pretty much, on all this fucking shit and all this COVID bullcrap and all these fucking bullshit vaccines that were fucking pushed way too fucking fast. And I don't even call fucking vaccines. It's gene therapy, fucking clot shot bullshit. I didn't fucking take that shit, but unfortunately, people did. And, you know, I live in a country where apparently, according, you know, 85% of people took the first 2 doses or whatnot. And I don't know about that. I don't believe a damn word that the government says, because they lie. That's all. They're professional liars. It is their job to lie to you for a profession and steal your fucking money and hit you over the head and let people believe this false assumption that they're the ones that have your best interest in mind. We give them that fucking... But at the same time, too, there are fucking horribly irresponsible fucking people in the fucking planet. There are people that just don't give a shit about anything but themselves, or even the notorious ones that like fuck people over are you know, violent criminals and shit like that. You're gonna have those people in society, and it's kind of funny to see how Canada has like dealt with that over the last little bit. Because I mean, there used to be a time where like in the 50s we had people that were like being fucking guinea pig experimented on, like fucking Ewan Cameron and shit like that. You know, and fucking like all kinds of horrible fucking things to keep people that were deemed mentally ill, and they were used as like guinea pigs. But then you had the whole backlash towards that thing, and then there was the whole, you know, the one flew over the cuckoo's nest, you know, how the institutionalization got too extreme, which, granted, happens a lot. And, I mean, even in especially in socialist countries. I mean, look at the Nazis. The doctors, before the Nazis even took power, were on board with the euthanization and with the eugenics, sterilization shit of, like, mentally handicapped or deficient people that they fucking deemed as unworthy. So, I mean, you know, there's that. That's not a good thing. But then you also see how it's kind of, they close down all the institutions, and then they let people just fucking run rampant and just give them fucking drugs as a you know, the solution. And then you deal with all this rising homelessness, and then the fucking price of everything goes up, and you know, I mean, people that were living stupid beforehand and maybe were afford to do shit aren't able to do things nearly as well as they were able to do before. And so that has a counter effect of people who will start fucking robbing shit like stuff like that. And I don't fucking agree with that shit, because there's a lot of, if you have principles and you give a shit about somebody else, you're not gonna fucking steal from them, because like it could be most of these places where the shit happens, it's like other fucking people, you know, that are just trying to make it, are just trying to like feed their fucking families and have a legitimate business and pay their fucking taxes and go about their fucking way and stuff like that. You know, like, they're the ones that end up getting screwed over the most. And the big corporations, the one that push all this bullshit, they're shielded from all this shit with insurance companies and fucking all their legal fucking departments and stuff like that. They don't give a fuck. They're just pushing the agenda. I mean, like, it's gotten to a point now where, like, I mean, take movies, for example. They have stopped giving a shit about making money. I mean, Star Wars could have been fucking amazing. I mean, I'm not even that bright, and I could write a better fucking 3-movie Star Wars fucking trilogy than anything that they fucking came out with this, like, multiple directors and producer bullshit, which it was all, you know, Roundhead Ryan Johnson that fucked up the middle one, and yeah, just, like, Kathleen Kennedy, all this, like, force is female, all this ideological bullshit and stupid social justice writers that they hire that can't write a fucking story to save their lives, and we're completely okay with getting rid of any kind of main established character that people fucking love to begin with. I mean, Marvel's done it, like, their comics, DC's done it, like, it's all woke shit, pretty much, and the only really good, and the funny thing is, though, you get guys like James Gunn, who actually can write stories, but then you find out that he's, like, doing these weird fucking pedophile-themed fucking parties in Hollywood and shit like that, and made, like, I mean, okay, I get it. When you're, like, a celebrity, and you're on Twitter and shit like that, you make a lot of jokes, and, like, some of them, every now and then, may be a little insensitive, a little edgy, but, I mean, this dude was, like thousands and thousands of pedophile jokes. It's just, it makes you wonder. You know, you hear all this shit about Hollywood, you hear all the people that get out of it, that get chewed up by it, but talk about all the bad shit about it, and, you know, I believe it at this point. You know, there's just way too much fucking high-powered people and celebrities that have been to Epstein fucking Island that are involved in that shit. And I mean, even before that, if you go back as far as, like, the Franklin fucking cover-up in the States and shit like that with Republicans, it's not just a left or right fucking thing. It's a controlled opposition thing. I mean, look here in Canada, we don't even have fucking real conservatives whatsoever. Maybe somewhat fiscally, they might say that they're a little fiscally conservative, but they're still all for bringing in the pipeline of people that we can't fucking afford, and all these fucking wars that we can't afford, that we shouldn't be fucking in. And I mean, the UN should be, his main objective was to stop the world from going to fucking war with each other. And they have failed in that mandate so horribly now that they should be left out of everything. But no, they run the schools. Like the schools, oh, the debate club? Oh, you can do the little mock UN debate club. Oh, yes, it's so prestigious. oh, you can pretend that you're a bunch of other countries that you don't know a fucking thing of just someone that looked at the Wikipedia page. Oh, Netflix porter of potassium. Like, nobody gives a fuck. Like, oh my god. And you can't do the debate club and surrender all the time if you're French, because then you get made fun of. Just kidding. Actually, I gotta give props to the fucking French. Fucking right here. I mean, if anyone who's actually been, like, okay, mind you, there's a lot of leftist Antifa people in France that have, and like provocateurs. I mean, like, they practically fucking invented the term provocateurs. So take that at what you will, but I mean, burning down some of the fucking, going straight to the Rothschild buildings and shit like that takes some balls, man. I gotta say that's at the same time too, though, it's like, you know, at least they're not surrendering to this whole thing. They're fighting back on it. But then it's like some of the stuff they're protesting is kind of like socialist kind of things that they're not gonna get, like, you know, like, I guess the age of retirement, which has always been a scam from its inception. Just another way to fucking tax people for bullshit. I think everyone who's watching this thing knows about that, though. But I'm just ranting about this stuff because I had it on my mind. I could have talked a lot, like, you know, done it like every week or whatnot. But for one, I don't really have a group of people. I'm out here in the fucking wilderness, pretty much, of Woodstock. Unfortunately, I thought there'd be more people here that would fucking agree. I think there's more people that do secretly agree, or that, you know, like, don't have the fucking balls to come out or wear a hat, or, you know, have their fucking, you know, their beliefs out in the open. Because I have, like, shirts and shit like that. I'll go out there just to fuck people, you know, just to fuck with people. You know, I'm actually thinking about maybe just buying a Diagolon shirt. They say, oh, you shouldn't wear it in fucking public by yourself. Well, I think I might start doing that shit. I don't give a fuck. I'm one of those dudes that, you know, my back is fucking in so much goddamn pain on a regular basis that, you know, like, I mean, I smoke weed, but I could have been opiates a long fucking time ago, but I never wanted to do that shit because that's fucking horrible. It fucking kills your soul, it kills your body even faster over a long period of time, and creates more fucking problems than what it needs to. I mean, I had a problem with food, obviously. I ballooned up to like 450 fucking pounds after I fucking screwed up my back at fucking pre-con, fucking working with these stupid fucking metal and concrete fucking forums that are pouring in for, like, subway tunnels and shit like that, and ended up fucking my back up from that. But that's beside the point, you know? I mean, I've always tried to do what I can. I always worked, for the most part, but ever since my back's been fucked, I've been unfortunately on ODSP. You know, I wish I could find a way to, because I actually sing pretty well. I know you wouldn't be able to tell from this, because I'm talking just my regular voice, but I could do, like, Hotel California really well, and like Santeria, and other songs like that. And I also have written my own kind of songs and material, and like, but I don't play an instrument. I probably should have learned. You know, there's a lot of different regrets and things that just don't kind of work out. But it does, in a way, it's kind of like, you don't want to play the whole victim on things for everything, and the whole victim of circumstance. And I mean, it took me a long time to, like, realize that, because I mean, I fucking screwed up my back at the same time. My dad got fucking cancer. My stepdad, my real biological dad, is fucking, who knows if he's alive or what the fuck he's doing. But my stepdad kind of raised me, you know, when it was just my mom and me or whatnot. And I mean, he had his problems like that. He gambled and shit like that, and, you know, kind of was really irresponsible with money. And you know, but at the same time, too, he also had a lot of old school values that I appreciate, and I miss him. You know, I mean, like, you can hate him as much as you want when you're younger, but, you know, you get to a point where you realize that, you know, people are set in their ways for the most part, and you have to understand where they're coming from. And once I got to that kind of age, you know, when I was kind of in my mid-20s, because I matured pretty fast, you know, I knew that it was just, he had his problems and stuff like that, but he was, you know, he was seeing things from his point of view and stuff like that, and so I appreciated that. And so, you know, I mean, really, that's what you have to do. You have to start looking into just kind of fixing your own life, trying to improve things around you. Find people who are, you know, and I've been trying to find people around my area. Like, I've been doing the whole thing with the, you might see it there, Action for Canada and PPC. For some of their events and stuff like that. Was also a member of the PPC. I've been working in my writing here. just because it was the only way to get people in my area, you know, even talking about what's going on right now. And it's getting a little bit of the sun shining off there and probably screwing with anyone watching this. But it's gotten to that point where, you know, like, I had to go out there and try to find people. And, I mean, there are people that are interested, but the problem with my writing here in Oxford is that, you know, it's very conservative. It's always been a very conservative held writing. People have, like, this weird kind of, like, you know, like the 1950s baby boomers and, like, the whole kind of, like, Pleasantville kind of, like, thing. I mean, it's nice. It's been a great thing. I think originally from the 90s is when they've been in power for a very long time. And, I mean, that like, image that they were selling everybody was you know, viable. But, it was hard to find anybody who, you know, was against the whole mandates and the conservative handling and Doug Ford. And unfortunately, that's why, you know, I think I maybe found about 30 people in general at first that were willing to go to, like, PPC meetings and stuff like that. But they were, like, either, I think they had some hippies from, like, Ingersoll area that were, like, farmers or like, you know, kind of more like Corvette fans and stuff like that. And then we had religious types that were kind of like, you know, more conservative, and but, you know, we're all against the New World Order and all, and we could all see this bullshit for what it is. And so it was nice getting those people there, but then, you know, it's hard to get anybody else. And then the COVID, the lockdowns and all that stuff happened, and you know, it was really hard to get anybody to, like, I was having to just kind of go out and protest and dance on, like, the fucking, you know, kind of like do a little shimmy with, like, protest shirts and, like, signs and stuff like that, doing, like, a one-man protest. Or I was putting up fucking signs all over the community saying that the fucking lockdowns kill more people than COVID ever does, just because of the supply chain breakdowns, and proven to be right about that. Well, I mean, I wouldn't say I'm proven to be right about that shit, because I get my information from Alex Jones. I fully agree with a lot of the stuff that he's talking about, because it's been proven time and time again. I like to look at a lot of different, more variations in conservative, just because, like, I like to see, like, even if I don't fully agree with them or whatnot, you know, like, I want to hear them out. I like to hear everybody as much as I can, you know, like, it's just, I try to hear more of the left, but I'm finding the only people that were sensible on the left are the ones that now the other people on the left are saying, oh no, you know, sensible people like what they have to say. So now Russell Brand is apparently a neo-Nazi, and fucking, you know, Tim Pool's a neo-Nazi, and Jeremy from the Quartering is a neo-Nazi, and, like, even though, like, you know, you can criticize them for having butter-soft bitch takes on certain things, but I understand where they're coming from, and they understand, you know, what they're doing, and they're doing their own kind of ways of you know, saying what they want. And they should at least have that fucking ability to say what they fucking want and what they believe, and people can judge that for the marketplace of ideas in their own way, you know? I'm just more surprised that there's not more people that are stepping up to the plate and, like, doing more of the, you know, doing podcasts or getting out there and protesting. Like, when they had Drag Queen Story Time, for example, here in Woodstock, it was just pretty much me, and then it was just a religious group. There was about, like, 20-some-odd people that went inside to take up seats because they didn't want people to... I'm in the middle of podcasting. You just put that there. Yeah. Thanks, Max. But anyways, there's tons of people that were there to take up the seats and whatnot. So, thank you very much, by the way. I appreciate it. They were there to take up seats as a way of, like, a silent protest. So I'm surprised there weren't more people out there that were, you know, because a lot of people, when you look at I mean, everything what they tried to do with the Hogwarts backlash, that didn't work out too well. I mean, for quite some time, games journalists had using the momentum of what they said as Gamergate, their version of the interpretation of it. Also the kind of clown world of the Me Too movement, until Johnny Depp was, you know, vindicated, and now people are starting to actually realize that and they also had the Argenta lady, the lady who started the Me Too movement. She ended up getting busted for, like, having sex with an underage minor. So, I mean, and then, like, Anthony Bourdain ended up killing himself over the whole fucking thing. So that was pretty sad. But no, just showing how, like, you know, there's a backlash at a lot of people that know about, like, the Hogwarts thing. Like, for the longest time, for the past at least 4 or 5 years, the leftist journalism have been able to kind of get people to like not play video games, or to have like a stigma, be like, oh, and for a lot of the times that they've done shit like that with Comicsgate and stuff like that, they've managed to actually do a lot of damage and have people, you know, not buy certain games that they find to be problematic. And Hogwarts, even though it's J.K. Rowling, and the funny thing about J.K. Rowling is that, you know, it's an example of how the leftists eat their own, because, I mean, 98% of what she believes, most leftists agree with. It's the 2% of believing that there should be women's only spaces and that she's a trans exclusionary radical feminist, you know, was never an issue up until now, because, you know, the T's and the alphabet people are getting more power in society, and so it's become, you know, a thing where she's getting more death threats from these people that say that they're more tolerant and accepting of everyone else, and how come nobody's being accepting and tolerant of us when they're the ones that are pushing all these fucking boycotts and stuff like that. So, you know, I mean, the failure of the J.K. Rowling boycotts, it just goes to show you that a lot of people are just kind of getting sick of the bullshit, and also the less returns that are coming from these social justice warrior in culture, pretty much, from like entertainment with Marvel and Star Wars. They're getting diminishing returns. A lot of Mandalorian had huge drop-offs of viewership because they didn't find that the 3rd season was a quality enough writing, and that's on Jon Favreau, who was supposed to be the guy who's saved it, even though apparently there's some, I guess, some talk about there was some writing issues that they were hashing out between him and Kathleen Kennedy's side of the Star Wars writing. But I mean, a lot of the stuff is not performing. Marvel movies aren't doing nearly as well as they thought they would be doing, and their ticket prices have gone up, but even with the ticket prices going up, they're still not making as much money as what they're intending to do. Taking that into consideration, I mean, you have it that Marvel backs a lot of different, you know, I mean, you live by the social justice warrior sword, and you die by the social justice warrior sword. I mean, if you look at Ezra Miller from DC, for example, you know, I mean, this is a guy who, if he was anybody else, or if he was a conservative, would have been fired and replaced with a new Flash a long time ago. But because he identifies as the alphabet person, and because he goes around and doing horrible fucking things to people, I mean, there's times where he's like, you know, like beating the shit out of like women and shit like that all around, and like breaking into people's like fucking houses and shit like that when he's a millionaire and can like easily do a dial-a-bottle service at any time, you know, like just like completely crazy people that, and then I mean, you got the Jonathan Majors thing. I mean, you got your head, the next person of the Marvel universe who's supposed to be like the Thanos equivalent now is like in question of whether or not they're even going to have him, because he we don't even know whether or not he did or didn't beat the shit out of a woman allegedly. And so Marvel, they're caught between this, you know, so like this rock and a hard place, because it's like, do they fire him or do they try to support him because it doesn't look good? And then how do you replace the Kang thing? I know you can do the multiverse thing, but when they already established that Kang's pretty much the same kind of like looking kind of character throughout and established a bunch of different multiverses, how do you even get that into the MC? Like it's all falling apart. I mean, they just killed Miss Marvel in the Spider-Man comic, and they're pushing the Marvels, and she's like supposed to be like the quirky, you know, like the person that's supposed to be the lively humor of the Marvels movie that's been delayed for so long, after it was originally supposed to be Captain Marvel 2, but they realized that Brie Larson is really unlikable, unfortunately. And I mean, it's funny because now, if you actually look at what Brie Larson is like, you know, like, it seems that she's actually kind of like sick of being a pawn for the woke mob. But the problem is that originally she jumped on that bandwagon so hard, and there's no coming back from that shit. You know, when you lose that authenticity, people see through it, especially people who are huge fans of comics. I mean, oh my god, I don't know what it is about comics and just certain types of nerd kind of aspects of society where that shit does matter to a lot of people, as much as the you know, the companies try to say, oh no, we're going to go over, you know, we're going to go over what people want with what we want you to think, how we want you to grow up, how we want you to identify. It's not about, like, okay, you can have somebody who's, like, a fucking alien. It doesn't matter. They don't, like, what, or all of a sudden, like, if you write an alien in a comic fucking book, you're supposed to pander to somebody who might be an alien reading, who comes to this fucking planet, like, you know, who knows if they're here or if they've never been here or whatever, million years down the road, they're like, oh, what is this thing? Oh, I identify with this weird, with this green dude or whatnot. Like, no, that doesn't fucking matter. It matters about telling a good story, and it matters about, like, different variations and reiterations and retelling of the hero's journey. Like, there's certain psychological fucking symbols that get put into certain types of movies, or certain types of dilemmas, or certain types of thinking, or ways of changing your perception in movies that makes it fucking awesome as an art form. That makes it, like, that makes some of the movies that you're watching really meaningful, and, like, for a lot of people, they make it their lives. I mean, if you look at a lot of the, I mean, even, like, the Star Wars things, and yeah, it's turned into a nerdy fucking sad meme at this point for people that, like, really kind of got their growing up, and like, they really like that stuff when they're growing up and having their heroes, you know, from something that was based up on a lot of mixture of, like, Eastern philosophies and kind of, like, weird, esoteric principles and stuff like that George Lucas had. And so, I mean, because, like, in real life, like, for example, you know, it's hard to think that there would be, like, some sort of, you know, force that gives you power, but then makes you all of a sudden either, one, a total fucking impotent asshole, or two, a fucking serial killer that just wants to fucking mirror, you know, it doesn't give a shit about everything, and it's like a weird fucking thing where there can't be any more of you. It has to be just you and the master. You know, like the rule of two, which is just a dumb rule. You should have, like, a bunch of different Siths and just have, like, a better... But then you can see the Siths fighting against each other. Maybe that would be a great movie. I would watch that over any of the shit with fucking Daisy Ridley. And, you know, unfortunately, she kind of fell for the whole thing, too, and went into that whole thing. And, you know, she's probably a nice... You know, the funny thing is, if you were to sit down with Brie Larson or Daisy Ridley and, like, actually have a normal fucking conversation, treat them as, like, human beings, and just tell them what your problems with certain things are. I'm sure, especially now, after going through that whole bullshit of all the propaganda, they probably, you know, unless they're really bought into that thing, and that is, like, their reason to live, you know, that's them, that's who they're gonna want to be remembered as forever, you know, after all this lunacy. You know, I think they'll be decent people. You could probably, they would understand at least where you're coming from, and you'd be able to have a few laughs and treat them as a human being. But the problem is that there's this, like, rampant fucking mind virus that either, you know, it's, you know, where we have this thing in our brains as a collective society where we fucking go hardcore on people who either on one side or the other. I mean, you get the people that are either, you know, they don't want you to think freely, they don't want you to say things freely, and that gets opposed, you know, on both the extreme left and the extreme right, unfortunately. But at least, you know, when I see with a lot of people on the right, you know, when you're looking at what the characterization of, in, like, modern society is, if you were to explain what the perceptions of left and right wing are, I mean, the right, people like me who are a little bit more on the right, or more on the right, you know, we just kind of see a lot of the leftists as lunacy and not making any sense, or being more of a feelings over facts kind of based way of going about governing, or just setting up your society. But the sad thing is that that's not the perception of what the left actually is. The left nowadays, and maybe not so much now because a lot of them have been exposed, like Neil deGrasse Tyson and stuff like that, for doing a lot of weird shit, and saying a lot of stupid things and pissing off people and stuff like that, and not really having the grounds, you know, being like people who are seen as thought leaders, but not actually knowing what the fuck they're talking about. There's a lot of those kind of more accepted in culture. You know, the left people are the more sensible ones. They're the ones that want the kids to stop dying, even though they're ones that support the border crossings and the fucking cartels and shit like that, and, like, the programming of your kids, and, you know, they're okay with you know, they want to defund the police, except when, you know, robber comes through their door and they don't have a gun, then all of a sudden they're going to phone the police and be like, oh, please come and save me, police officer with a gun. And then they get that, oh, well, you're in the queue. We'll get back to you when we can send somebody out in a couple hours, maybe a couple days, depending where you are. And you get to see that wonderful breakdown of logic with the left. And, like they're so morally in their own minds self-righteous than anybody else. I mean, I don't give a shit what people fucking do. Like, I'm not like to the point where I'm socially conservative, where I think we need to follow everything to the code of the Bible and shit like that. Because, I mean, I look at it, like, I see, like, the Old Testament and the New Testament, they kind of cancel each other out, in my opinion. There's some fucking opposite shit said in a lot of that stuff, man. So it's hard for me to really take that shit into account. But, I mean, having a strong community and, like, going to church on Sundays, I don't see anything wrong with that, no matter what religion you go to or whatnot. For me, I just don't see the point in it, but I do value the human life, to as much as you can. Because unfortunately, it's hard to control what people do with their lives. There's always going to be responsible and fucking horribly stupid, irresponsible people in society. And that's something you have to deal with. That's what, it's the reason why I'm not completely libertarian, because I could easily take that route and be like, oh, I don't believe in the whole social conservatism thing, so I believe I'm more libertarian than conservative, which I kind of am. But at the same time, I don't want to limit. Like, I think it's fucked up that people are burning churches down to the ground and shit like that, and I do see that the Christians are the most persecuted fucking people. And they're also the people out of anyone else in my camp, like, out of the camp out there of people that are actually standing up to the New World Order and see this, like, mark of the beast system. And, I mean, it's more of a self-fulfilling prophecy at this point, whether or not the globalists or the people who are running things intended it to be this way. It's just turning out to be the mark of the beast system, where they want fucking, RFID chips and, all that kind of fucking, shit that they can scan you or have digital control over the currency, so they know everything that you're buying and practically can just put whatever levies they want on smaller businesses and just keep the big ones going, and then just have that self-fulfilling thing where they're making money off of it. And you only have a few, you have less and less selections, you have less and less freedoms, you have less and less things that you can do. That's pretty much what this is geared towards. I mean, there's still people here in Canada that can't see their loved ones in hospitals. Our hospital actually, not our hospital, the one at my, but in Toronto, they actually killed a fucking lady for not wearing the mask properly. And the judge said, oh no, it's completely fine. It was well within their legal rounds. They were doing it to protect people from the sniffles, even though, if you go by the science, there's plenty of independent studies that show that masks did fuck all and actually probably do worse for you for, limiting, especially kids' oxygen fucking intake for what they need to learn. They're lowering, the IQs intentionally, that shit. But, I mean, this is the same society that fucking puts fluoride in the water and tells you it's for your own fucking good, when it's just a way for them to make money off of fucking toxic waste, chemical fucking plant runoff. And, it's something that actually isn't good for you. I mean, if you're gonna pay for water, you think your water would at least, they couldn't afford to at least put a fucking filter on there so it doesn't taste like fucking chemical, chlorine and fucking fluoride when you take a sip out of it? And we're supposed to be told as a society that that's the normal way. That's the good way of running society. So there's a lot, when you really put just the basics of a lot of shit down, there's a lot of manipulation, there's a lot of bullshit. And you gotta be fucking aware of it on both sides. I mean, for me, I do kind of lean more right. But at the same time, too, I mean, I really don't, I don't really give a shit about the whole abortion thing. It's I understand a lot of people are really fucking hardcore on it, but I think that's kind of a stupid way to run your political party or your country off of for such a minor issue. I'm more worried about making sure that, we have a food fucking supply chain, obviously because I'm a fat guy, no. No, it's because, you don't want that shit to be controlled to the point where, if you don't have the community set up where you have, co-ops where, people that are growing stuff, or growing for yourself, you're going to be fucked when it comes down to you only can use digital currency, and we're limiting to what you can buy, and all that shit when it starts getting worse and worse and worse. Because the people at the top do not have our best interests in mind. I mean, hey, there's probably people that probably see me as, being on ODSP and, being fucked up and disabled and shit like that, and not being fully committed to the whole right-leaning, you know, I get it from all the time from conservatives and Republicans and stuff like that, friends that I have from all over, because, you know, I go into different, like more online, different things like that. I like to support different channels and stuff like that when I can, or if I have some money, I like to throw some money towards people when I can afford it, because obviously my ass is broke, I'm having to budget everything. And being kind of the more conservative person in my household, I have to, like, make sure that I'm not spending my money on frivolous fucking things and shit like that. I'm having to, you know, like, trying to work out, not eat as much, and, you know, try to spend it out, you know, spread that shit out. And make sure that my nieces got food and snacks and stuff like that, because, you know, I haven't been lucky enough to find a good woman. You know, most of the time, you know, if you're a libertarian, and you start talking about, like, how the state's all fucked up and shit like that to a woman nowadays who's got, like, 3 different kids from 3 different dudes, and she's living either at her mom's place or by herself, and she's getting mass government subsidization, she's not going to look at your argument like, you know, like you have, like, for what it's worth. She's going to be coming from a place where she obviously has bias, you know. And because I don't play bullshit games and I don't simp, you know, you end up being alone in this world, especially being fucking disabled and kind of ugly and hairy. I'm sure I could probably do this, but this is a freedom fucking beer, let's be honest. I just had no fucking shits to give in those 3 years and was protesting so much about it. I just let all this shit go. Like, if I find a good woman that's, like, fucking down to earth and isn't complete fucking crazy and, like, wants to, like, you know, like, settle down and all that shit, then, you know, that'd be a fucking miracle, for one. I might actually start being like, hey, praise the Lord. You know, is there a lake around here I get baptized or some shit? No, I was kidding. Oh, I probably could have gotten laid if I wanted to go that route, but, you know, I have to be honest when I'm talking to people in these political group things, and if they ask me if I'm religious or whatnot, you know, I have to be, I don't know, I hope that there's a spirit of justice that punishes assholes that do fucking horrible shit in this fucking planet, you know, for the time that they're on it, but I just don't know. And I kind of feel that, like, these assholes are getting away with it, so I don't know if, like, they do suffer any consequences once we die, you know? Nor can I ever get to the point where I would know until I'm dead, you know, unless I have, like, some sort of, like, weird, you know, near-death experience or some shit like that, that I'm convinced is, you know, like, a sign of actually seeing intelligent entities from another dimension and telling me about shit like that. So until then, I mean, but then it's like, what kind of a guideline do you have as a society to, you know, have a morally, you know, upright society that still thrives and doesn't, you know, decay into moral degeneracy or just, you know, into a clown world kind of thing where it's all about, you know, certain, whoever's in power going against their political rivals, which is what we see here in Canada. You know, any kind of criticism. I mean, it's sad that we had to find out from the States, an independent news organization from Chicago, about Justin Trudeau having a out-of-court settlement for one of the fucking kids that he raped when he was a, well, I wouldn't say rape, but, you know, obviously, like, underage for sure. He took advantage of that, you know, very pedophilic kind of tendency that we see in a lot of politicians. And, I mean, if you look at Trudeau's dad, I mean, like, that dude was really flamboyant, and, you know, there was a lot of talk about whether or not he was, you know, was gay or bisexual or whatnot, or, I mean, we knew his wife was, like, a total, like, skank. She was doing all kinds of weird fucking shit, and they were all into, like, the weird Marxist, you know, cultural, like, whataboutism kind of stuff, where it's all about, you know, you do you, and you don't have to have any, you know, responsibility for, you know, being parents or anything like that. You know, you just living off the fame and the notoriety. I don't know, man. It's kind of crazy where we have, like, dynasties for like, we're supposed to be in, like, free countries, right? Like, take the US or Canada. I mean, the UK has always kind of had a weird parliamentary thing where there is some weird sort of hereditary thing, and if you look at the monarchy itself and the aristocracy, that in itself is kind of like a weird bloodline thing. But we have, like, we're supposed to have, like, this, like, free democratic will of the people and, like, democracy in general, right? But a lot of the times it's controlled, or, like, you see a lot of these bloodlines that are practically running certain countries. I mean, you got, like, the Trudeaus. I mean, you got the Desmarais family. If you really want to look into, like, the Power Corporation of Canada and that whole thing, with I think Paul Desmarais, or was it, I can't remember if it was his son's name or whatnot, but the Desmarais family, they launched fucking Trudeau's, I mean, like the original Trudeau's campaign from the Power Corporation offices in Ottawa. Practically had, like, I think Paul Martin in their pocket. They had John Chrétien. John Chrétien actually married into one of the families of the Desmarais. I think it was Paris was the lady that he named or married or whatnot. So it just goes to show you that there's a lot of this stuff where it is kind of bloodlines. It's people that know certain people kind of thing, and unfortunately it does kind of seem that that's the state of the world. You know, it's we let people that are like from these psychopathic bloodlines fucking rule us. It's stupid. You know, I don't understand it. It makes no sense to me. But I mean, I like Alex Jones because, and other people too. I mean, and you know what? I've actually been watching a lot of the, like, the Raging Dissident and stuff like that. Like I said before, and they've also been kind of like opening my mind to the kind of like the whole Israel kind of aspect of things. And yeah, I know it's kind of like just, you know, in distasteful kind of things. But I mean, at the same time too, you have to look at valid criticism. And the fact that Hollywood has, like, shown pretty much every type of mob, like, now it's all the Russian mob, obviously, right? Because every bad guy's got to be Russian mafia. I mean, it's got to be a great age to be a fucking Russian actor in Hollywood now. At least until this war goes over, then you're out and you're a fucking ass, and it's going to be probably some other fucking underlying societal hatred that the left has that they'll put in their fucking bad guy insert here kind of thing, right? Every time they try to do it with the redneck thing, it never works out because it's too much of a parody. Like, most people who are conservative, that, like, yeah, they have that, like, ass kicking side of them that if they're pushed to it, they'll fucking go all fucking out and fucking put you down into the fucking ground. But, you know, they're not people that are actively seeking it out. They're most people that just want to fucking live their lives and fucking not be left alone by the fucking government for the most part. And that's the huge portion of people that supported Trump, and that's the reason why I like those kind of people who are populist and stuff like that. And I do think they stole it from Bolsonaro in fucking Brazil. I mean, they stole it from Trump, and they even fucking released this stupid fucking virus out there in the fucking world because they didn't want him to win because he was kicking ass in the trade war. And that's what I fucking honestly believe, and the evidence is supporting a lot of people, too, that are watching, or probably have following along, are getting to that conclusion, too. You know, because, and the sad thing is, you think society would be like, okay, let's just say theoretically, a nuke went off in fucking some other fucking part of the world or whatnot, and, you know, it was a decent-sized nuke, and you know, like, it didn't, like, kill people in an inhabited area, but the radiation and stuff like that started killing people and whatnot, and then all of a sudden, there would be, like, you would think naturally there would be a backlash against having nukes again, like they had in this, you know, ever since pretty much they dropped the bombs in Hiroshima and stuff like that. There was a growing anti-nuclear movement, right? And so you think, as a society, we would give a shit, one, about the fucking, like, minutes to midnight that we are, like, 90 seconds to fucking nuclear midnight. You think we would give a shit about that? Like, they gave a shit about it a lot more in the 80s. And I mean, yeah, mind you, there was a lot of that bullshit propaganda against communism. We gotta fight the Red Menace, but, I mean, when you look at it, they weren't wrong, overall. But, you know, they had the, if you see the flash, duck and cover. You know, like, that would, obviously, nothing could fucking save you from that kind of horrible fucking, you know, end. But, you know, it's kind of funny how people still respectfully had that, oh shit, we could get destroyed at any fucking time, and the back of their head was a serious thing that people contemplated, and was a reality that we should, like, not fucking poke the bear too much to start a fucking conflict like that. All that shit's gone right out the fucking window with this whole Biden thing and the globalists. Like, at any point they could be like, alright, we're pushing this thing into fucking overdrive, and we're all fucked. And the people in New Zealand and the southern hemisphere that were smart enough to fucking have the money to, you know, get away from all the fucking nuclear devastation and the shit that's going to be coming from this, you know, like, they're going to be fucking doing alright. But, you know, at the same time, too, then you have to make sure that the people that you're protecting you aren't going to turn on you. And there's always that that whole thing about like everything, the best play, sorry, the best laid plans of mice and men often go astray, as the saying goes, right? And we've seen that a lot with, you know, that's why Bilderberg's having a meeting every fucking year in secret, like right now, for example. Or like, you know, Davos will do like their open thing or whatnot, talking about, or they'll have like their little global governance conferences, to try to like keep them all in the same ball, and try to like, if something happens that they don't expect, they try to like, you know, try to make up for it and come up with more think tanks, because these are the people that, I mean, like, when you have the $1 billion that goes into grants and it goes into research and shit like that, it's going into social justice fucking causes. It's not going into how to advance society. It's, okay, people are fucking horrible fucking human beings and we're a plague to society. How do we manage it so we sustain Mother Earth? That's pretty much the overall fucking goal now, is to make sure that, you know, we keep billionaire fucking unelected globalists happy, that they can buy multiple fucking mansions and multiple fucking private jets and fly around. And I'm not even mad at people that want to accumulate wealth. But there's a difference between a successful businessman who has a lot of money and is still really like integral into that system or that corporation or whatever system, whatever thing that they're into. They may make a lot of money, but they do it because they're a valued asset and they're putting out stuff and they're actually doing things that makes them get money, that makes the general effort of what they're putting into more successful over time and more profitable over time. And so there's nothing wrong with people being able to be proud of having like a medium-sized business, multiple people that they employ. That's a good feeling to have, because then you know that you are actually literally building a community, because there are people that if you, especially if you're good to them, if you like give them like, you know, if you do like company picnics or stuff, you know, fun stuff like that, and you actually give a shit, and you're not all about just taking every fucking penny like fucking Bezos and all these assholes that get these massive government subsidizations, and they don't even need to fucking pay taxes for the good portion of a lot of it, because they're in these little things where they make fucking contracts with the places they're in with a fucking political class that gives them all these fucking free leeways and shit like that, right? So it's to the point where we have to realize that even just reining things into somewhat of an objective level would be a better improvement. But the problem is, there's no way for anybody, whether you're on the left or the right nowadays, and this is my argument, to be able to put the fucking brakes on to stop us from going into this New World Order fucking social credit Chinese digital currency system. That's exactly where this shit is going. And the people at the top, the ones that are pushing, that are literally funding politicians, like, I mean, the world, you know, Klaus Schwab, you know, was one of those guys who was so stupid. You know, they're one of those like evil fucking supervillains that have to tell you exactly what the fuck they're doing to like the guy in like, you know, in the plot, the good guy, or whoever, you know, they have to tell their fucking plan because they're so smart and so much better than everybody else, and they just have the right ideas, and they just believe that because they believe in it, it will be possible, you know. We will find all these new opportunities for you to eat the bombs, you know. And there's people that'll buy that shit up, and unfortunately, our politicians, like left or right, and you know what's crazy? We did that thing where there was like somebody asked a question in the fucking, I think it was like the House of Commons or Parliament, I can't remember which one, and even though you could hear it perfectly, they tried to say that it was the speaker, he couldn't hear what he had to say, he couldn't hear the question, he couldn't hear the question. He could hear every other fucking question before that, no fucking problem whatsoever, and then because he can't hear it. And then afterwards, to try to cover his own ass, and he said, and we believe that's just a conspiracy theory anyways. With like, what? The thing that you didn't hear is a conspiracy theory? What if the guy said, what if the sky is, we need to have a scientific investigation into why the sky is blue? That's just a conspiracy theory. We don't need to know why the sky is blue. It's not important. The sky is actually orange, especially around the end and beginning of the day. So being wrong like a fucking broken clock is pretty much the standard norm for the experts and the people that are running the show now. Because they obviously do not give a fuck about us. If the people running the show actually gave a fuck about us, we would have computers that would be like fucking amazing right now, that we'd have access to for like affordable, you know, for affordable prices. So we'd actually have that computing power. You know, we'd be like not fucking putting everything in debt and devaluing the dollar. We'd be like trying to like help other countries build their economies up so that we don't have to deal with the fucking problems when, you know, we fuck up with our global climate change policy that's all about starving the fucking planet. All right, where is the sense? You just had a fucking massive pandemic, all these supply chain, you know, shutdowns. If we're thinking about from the left's point of view, right, or the establishment conservatives that went along with this bullshit that were fucking idiots. Now, the last thing it would ever make sense for me, if you're trying to resupply and recover, is to cut your global fucking nitrogen production by 20 or 30%. That is the last fucking thing you want to do. It is almost like if you were to have a whole selection of all the possible things we could do to try to mediate this shit, and then there was like one that you knew for fucking sure was gonna be a bad fucking decision, and you go with that one as your main decision, it's not... You can't say that the people running things are stupid. This is a designed fucking takeover. A takedown of, you know, our fiat system that they know has been a fucking scam for so many years. Like the inflation is gonna keep going up at this point, because they just keep printing fucking money, and they don't realize that by printing money, you're creating this inflation. You know, they always think, oh no, it's the corporations. Oh, they're charging too much. It's like, no, you've practically made the price of operating. Like when they take out, like, I mean, energy costs are a huge portion of it. When you have higher energy, like where it costs more money for, you know, the sustainable energy that they're talking about. You know, they're building all these fucking windmills that have to rely on coal plants. You know, it makes no sense. Or how they, like the materials that are needed to create a fucking electronic vehicle are like ridiculously hazardous, hard to, like, you know, like the cobalt mines, the lithium mines. Is any of that shit getting fucking brought up? No, like that shit's never mentioned. Every time you see a little car ad, you don't see some fucking like I don't know where they mine them. It's probably like some fucking like Kyrgyzstan or fucking like some fucking African country or some shit. When they show you all those like, you know, nice little countryside CG things with the windmills in the background and all the fucking animals and the plants are smiling and shit. They don't show you a fucking Mobutu in fucking some country there with his fucking all hands all fucked up with lithium and fucking cobalt and shit like that. Getting fucking cancer and fucking dying. No, that shit never gets fucking brought up in the commercials. Because they're trying to sell you bullshit. Well, anyways, I've ranted for a good hour and a half and I'm kind of hungry. And I should probably start smoking this bowl. So anyways, that's pretty much my rant for the time being. You'll probably get another one in a little bit. Pretty much, so yeah, so that's good. Hopefully people can find other people around their communities, start growing food. That's really the only answer to this shit. Start building your own parallel societies. Start building your own stuff. And that's what people are doing. You know, I mean, take like the comics version, for example. I mean, Ethan Van Sciver with the whole, the whole Comics Gate, they're kicking ass. Like, they're the only people selling comics now are the independent comics people that are breaking away from the bullshit. You know? All the established people, they're hiring all these diversity hires that, you know, are all talking about, you know, like, that they can't write a fucking story to save their fucking lives because they go on all these stupid little Marxist fucking ways of writing shit that just turns it into a fucking teenage fucking soap drama about their fucking feelings. So, I mean, it's good that they killed off fucking Miss Marvel because nobody fucking gave a shit about her to fucking begin with. And it's funny how they always try to say that she's like a Muslim Pakistani. It's kind of funny how you can't bring God, like, from a Christian sense, into the Marvel universe. And it's actually kind of interesting, because if you look into the old way of Marvel, God was, like, Yahweh, and, like, he was, like, fucking, the God of, like, the Jews, Christians and Islam in the comic books, even in the progressive time in the 60s. And I think there was one time, too, where he got all drunk because, like, he ended up getting drunk because Hitler was a thing. And so, like, it's kind of interesting how they're trying to portray, like, Kamala Harris or whatnot. Yeah, like, I don't know, it sounds like they pretty much, like, named her after freaking the worst fucking vice president fucking selection that the United States has probably ever had in our lifetime. And they try to say, oh, well, she's a Muslim, but that would mean that Yahweh exists in the Marvel Universe, and obviously that's not the case. So it's like they're like the whole, in a way for them to be like, oh, she's this first brown Muslim female superhero character, she's gonna get her own TV show, it's gonna be super awesome. It's like, okay, well, how do you put that in? That automatically means that there is somewhat of a you know, Abrahamic God in the Marvel Universe. Oh, no, we can't have that in there. We just put in the things that make it sound good to people that are stupid, that like to buy fucking tickets and see flashy fucking lights on the screen. That's what it's fucking marketed to. It's not marketed towards telling the original stories. I mean, the original fucking Infinity Gauntlet made Thanos out to be very intelligent. Like, he had to trick certain people that had these, like, and the writers did such a great job on it because they had these like these cosmic kind of ideas of what it would be like if you were to take the time stone and stuff like that, and the people that were the current avatars, or the people that were holding that power in that universe, were able to, their weaknesses and their strengths of having that one particular type of ultimate power, and by using his like smarts, completely subverting that and getting the stones that way. You know, I mean, the Infinity Saga will probably be the end of the like, most people will probably remember it as the time, at least the first death of the Marvel Universe, because all the other movies have completely underperformed and have been critically pretty much destroyed over the plot holes that they have over them. And I mean, it goes to show you, I mean, you get Disney that are firing CEOs left, right, and center. You know, they fired the last guy in charge like on a Sunday night after an Elton John concert, and they're just firing all these everything from comic book writers that can't sell issues because they have to put their progressive woke bullshit and everything, and nobody wants it, or you know, the law of diminishing returns. And it's kind of interesting now that Guardians of the Galaxy 3, I've heard from a lot of people, even people who are critical of the way that Marvel and Disney has like ruined a lot of the stuff, has said that it's a great movie. And it's a shame now that people are actually starting to, once they hear the people that are more sensible, that are saying, hey, it's you know, it's an interesting movie, go see it. Now people are going out there to go, okay, well, I'll go out and I'll buy, and so they're seeing that it's actually having a little bit more staying power, as opposed to a lot of other movies that people may have wanted to see but just don't give a shit at this point. I mean, you got you got Black Widow, she's out. You're not going to get another Scarlett Johansson. She's done with Marvel. She hated how they fucked her over on all of the marketing and putting things, I guess, that her video to I guess Disney Plus, after, you know, it should have been released a long time ago, you know, around or definitely before the height of the Infinity Saga. You know, you've got Taika Waititi that has practically turned Thor into a fucking joke, and Chris Hemsworth doesn't want to work with him anymore. And I think Chris Hemsworth is actually at the point where he's about ready to be done with just the whole Marvel Universe, you know, to begin with. And Chris Pratt's been getting a lot of bullshit just for being Chris Pratt. I'm sure at a certain point he just doesn't want to be doing the Marvel thing after a while. You know, it's Jeremy Renner's out. You know, but I mean, at the same time too, they were in the middle of writing him out when he had that accident anyway. So it just turns out to be very convenient for Marvel and for Disney to have an easily replaceable female Hawkeye, which they did their own TV series for, and a lot of people didn't watch. You know. And I'll be honest with you, I watched some of it. It was a little, it was kind of interesting, but at the same time, too, it was kind of like a little OP. you know, but then she, you know, they make her a little less OP, but I think it was kind of like they were written her as a replacement. Regardless, she was being done as a replacement. They were just a little bit more smarter with how they were going to do about it, because Jeremy Renner had his charm, and, you know, obviously the actress was you know, the actress did a good job playing it. It's just, you could tell the writing was bad. When they do like a horrible auction and they have like all the, you know, the items and stuff like that, like to get people still watching. Oh, it's that's the guy's, oh, it's that guy's armor. Oh, it's that guy's sword. Oh, yeah, I know who that person is in the DC universe or Marvel universe. You know, it's like, they always do this stuff with the writing shit, where they just try to put like little things in there where it's like a bit of nostalgia without having them to do any fucking work whatsoever. And I mean, at least Nintendo, they did it too, but they did it in a way where it was still conducive to the story, and it was kind of like a joke on the side where you can do that, and you know, where you can still pay homage, and it still comes off as like, you know, honest to the source material, and it doesn't come off as a complete, you know, play just to make money and just to get people to, you know, give a shit about what you're pushing. So, but yeah, so there's a lot of pushback with that. Also, the Dylan Mulvaney thing, Bud Light, I guess Miller Lite starting to get some backlash now because they went woke, and then they deleted their ad right away because they knew it was coming, and people were like, "Oh, really? Do you really want to go down this road, Miller?" And for me, it's interesting because, like, I understand the whole, like, you know, Dylan Mulvaney kind of like, you know, when they say that they don't want to like have their frat boy image for Bud Light and stuff like that, and just being a really bad, like, pretty much like a historical account. When they do marketing, like 10 years from now, they will bring up the Bud Light controversy on how not to piss off your fucking your customer base and the people that like make your business what it is. And yeah, so I guess we'll have to see how everything plays out with that. I would rather see people kind of like go toward put their energy more into like making localized communities and co-ops and shit like that. Start growing fucking gardens and like raising chickens and stuff like that. We need to start doing it in a way where we can like fight the fucking government in a way where if they try to start fucking shutting you down, like every time that they shut down a co-op in the States or whatnot like that, it makes attention, and it makes them look like fucking tyrants. And everybody in the community will know, yeah, we had a great thing. There was this community co-op thing over there. They had, you know, plenty of food. They were even donating it. They got to a point where you got big enough where they were donating stuff to people and helping the fucking community and shit like that and doing good overall. And, you know, and then they get fucking raided and it all goes to shit, and then you're on fucking government fucking food stamps or... You know, well, they don't have the food stamp thing here, but, I mean, with the digital currency and the collapse of the dollar, you can fucking bet your fucking bottom dollar it's going to be gone soon. So, you know, that's the best way of doing it, because at least that way, even if they do try to shut you down, and there's other people that are growing food too, I mean, they may shut a couple people down, but, you know, it'll get to the point where more people will be like, they're arresting people for growing their own food, or... You know, and then they'll be like, oh, no, it was because they weren't doing regulations. You know, they were selling raw milk, or, you know, even though it's apparently better for you. Like, you know, like, I don't know, man. It's crazy, the world we live in. And, hey, man, if you're... I find I can talk to people more right-leaning than me. You know, even the people that are all like, you know, complete ethno-state, get the fucking immigrants out of here, you know, no immigration for the next 10, 20 years kind of thing. You know, I could talk to those people because I see where they're coming from in a lot of regards. I may not agree with them. I do believe in some immigration. Like, I don't think that immigration itself should be a left-right issue. It should be based on how much demand you have in the workforce. If you need some extra people, then, you know, I mean, but then, you know, there's also, you could give them people more money for having kids and stuff like that. And I think we've already done a good job of that here in Canada. But obviously, when there's, like, two parents in there and there's kids involved, then obviously there's like, you know, a cutting in the money, and then you have to, you know, talk about that whole thing and debate about it. Socialist Canada, what can I say? I mean, like, you get used to certain things. I mean, I think that's probably the reason why a lot of people here are fucking useless now, or because we've gotten to point to having such, you know, such, like, everything pretty much done for us. Like, we've lived in such a very comfort, you know, like Don Cherry said, living in the land of milk and honey. I mean, Canada's always been afforded enough to have plenty of farmland. We've always been able to feed our population. We've always been able to, you know, do a lot of stuff that's been considered Canadian for the longest time. And it's not that anything is being removed from that. I mean, people like still watch the playoffs religiously here. I didn't, because I think it's stupid. Fucking, I just see it as tribalism and bred in circuses, and you know. But here in Canada, it's a thing. People like hockey, and it becomes their identity, and they just turn into, you know. It was funny because I was watching the hockey game, and all of a sudden I could see right away the differences between when I used to watch it when I was a kid, and it was less pussified. One, like the penalties were being called ridiculously, like way too much. Like the refs have just ruined professional modern sports now anyways. Like I tried watching the NFL because I just needed a fucking distraction. I watched some of the playoff games, and I'm just, the calls that they made me just be like, okay, this is exactly why I can't fucking watch sports, because to me it just looks like, you know, they're fucking rigging it one way or the other for like key times and key fucking games that just ruin it for me. And, you know, then you see, like, the fact that they had, like, the game was on there, and then they're like, oh, yes, and they show it, and it's all fucking Indian dudes that are all, like, supporting the Toronto Maple Leafs, and then they're, like, they're doing the game, and then all of a sudden they're like, oh, we want to welcome on Raj over here, and then he's like, oh, yes, and he's, like, doing his, like, Punjabi thing, and he's all like, you know, oh, yes, we're glad to have the blah, blah, blah. It's like you're throwing it into our fucking face. And then, just as it goes to commercial before the game starts, there's like some like CBC show, and it's like obviously demographically marketed that show towards Indian people, because there's all these Indian people in the little ad thing that they're trying to get people to watch. Oh, yes, we're marketing to the demographics of the Indians. They love hockey. They'll pay for money. They're hardworking. We could just milk these motherfuckers. Like, that's exactly how it is nowadays. There's no fucking, you know, Canadian spirit where it's just like, hey, man, you like the cold fucking... If you can deal with the cold fucking weather, you like to drink, you like to watch hockey, and you like to have fun with your friends, then you're more than fucking welcome. That was what it was all about. That's what it was. You know, now it's all like, oh, we gotta have more diversity. Why are all these players white in the hockey? We need to get more diversity in here and stuff like that, you know? And we need, you know, as opposed to just, like, dealing with the meritocracy, you know, like, predominantly when a white nation with hockey and ice sports, we get really good at it. You know, it's just like if you practice things for a long period of time. It's like, I'm not gonna hate Kenyans for being fucking fast. I'm not gonna fucking hate Japanese for being fucking really good at fucking technology and analytical shit and math. You know, it's just how it is. It's just, there's differences. Biology is a thing. The way that we fucking act as a culture and as different people are different things. And we have, you know, a multicultural society here, which was never an issue until mass immigration and we started electing fucking liberals in power for a fucking prime minister. Then all of a sudden we're all racist, oh shit, all this stuff. And then, like, they fucked up the whole, the mass grave bullshit, which turned out to be, like, 75% of what they tried to say was, like, an actual, like, just old graves where people just didn't have money for fucking concrete and fucking cement, so they made fucking wooden grave markers, and, you know, that fucking shit goes and fucking decays over all the winters and over the years, and, you know, stuff, you know, like, and then they try to say it was like a mass, oh, it was a mass burial. It was just a giant pit of bodies that they put the... And I mean, hey, there were probably some fucking things that went on that were not fucking cool and were fucking horrible. But, you know, let's hold those assholes accountable, you know, because they kept that shit away from all the other Canadians. It wasn't like they were teaching us in school, oh, yes, by the way, in third grade, oh, yes, we also murder a lot of the Indian people. Yeah, we say we love them, but we actually are just out there just murdering them all the time. Oh, yeah, kids' skulls just smacking them against rocks. Oh, yeah, we just do that all the time, really. They're just kind of out there, you know, every now and then, RCMP, just like, we want to kill someone. Let's take out some natives. Yeah, oh yeah, most Canadians were completely fucking aware of that. Oh yeah. It wasn't just like one or two fucking, the United Church and like another fucking branch of shit like that fucked things over for everyone. And so everyone in Canada now is collectively fucking guilty, and now we can't, you know, like, it's so bullshit. And, I mean, they even had to come out and say, I guess, like a year after it got out in the news, and they're like, oh, this is so bad. And all my friends are like, online are like, oh, you're Canada, man. Oh, geez, well, they were caught murdering kids and stuff like that. It's fucking horrible, the mass graves. And, oh, what a horrible thing. And I was kind of like, well, I kind of want to find out more information on that first, you know. Well, I'm the bad guy, apparently. Well, anyways, shit, minute, hour, 44, wow, my brain's not working. Brain is wanting to smoke some weed right now. But anyways, after ranting, just want to say thank you all for tuning in, and, yeah, it's been a while, so I'm going to leave it here. Alright, peace out.